Hello everyone, this is Shooting from the Hip number 1. I'm your host, Dick Lucas. Some of you may not know this, but No Gradient, besides publishing podcasts, also publishes articles and predictions on nogradient.com. So what this experiment is, Shooting from the Hip, I'm just going to go through the new stuff on No Gradient, predictions, articles, things I'm reading. It's just going to be me, myself, and I'm just going to be talking to you directly. No one else, no guests. Just shoot from the hip. Disclaimer, I got some notes here, but I encourage you to, if you want to actually see everything that I'm talking about in clear writing, see the links to everything, nogradient.com, the newsletter. Just go to that Welcome to No Gradient post right at the top, subscribe to the newsletter. It's called No Gradient in No Time. It's a once-a-month newsletter where I just cover everything that's new on No Gradient. And that's what I'm going to be riffing on here. So everything that's new in the past month, I'm just going to kind of do rapid fire, that's what I'm going to do, rapid fire, just go right through it. And that's going to be the format here. So we're experimenting with it. We're going to see how it works. We're doing it outside. We've got wind. I think it's going to be okay. The sun's in my face, no sunglasses. It is what it is. So we're just going to riff here. First of all, I'm recording this, February 3rd, 2020. I think it's around 10 a.m. In the morning, right after the Super Bowl, and I'm still reeling from that. The halftime show. When I was watching it with some family friends, my family, I was like, holy shit. I'm not an old guy, but damn, I was like, what the camera angles on some of these things. I was like, damn, you couldn't raise the camera a bit? Jesus. But we're okay. It was a great show. Just some quick Googling. I didn't want to read any of these articles, but USA Today, empowering or objectifying, Rihanna, Fukin, Shakira, and J-Lo. I thought it was an epic show. It was great, halftime, whatever. But it reminds me of, it's just so American. On one hand, you got the beginning of the Super Bowl. The war heroes come out. We honor them. You got the Jets, the flyover. America the Beautiful, all that stuff. You got the Andy Reid story, hard work, 21 years, first Super Bowl win. Football, it's a tough sport. You got to work hard, blah, 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 perseverance. You got that on one hand, kind of the good old values. And then you got the Olay commercial, more space for women. You got the women empowerment stuff, and you got that football commercial. I don't know if that was Olay as well, but the woman takes the helmet off. Everyone's like, holy shit, it's a woman that kicked the field goal. And then you got the halftime show that's like just the one other extreme. I'm not going to say it was objectifying. I can't comment on that. I don't know enough about culture, but I will say it's just hilarious. South Park did a great episode on this. America's just a country of extremes. We've got, on one hand, we got the warmongers. On the other hand, we got the people out in the streets, like, getting pissed off, no war, blah, blah, blah. They did a great episode on it. My point is, it's just hilarious. It's so American to have, on one hand, the war heroes and the hard work, and then on the other hand, the consumerism, and then that halftime show, which you're just like, holy shit. So I thought it was hilarious. It was a good show. Whatever. If you're offended by it, God bless you. And if you weren't, God bless you. It is what it is. Now on to, just wanted to get that off my chest quickly. Now I'm going to go into the predictions that were made over the past month on No Gradient, and then I'm going to riff on some of the articles that were published. Then I'm going to riff on some other things, and then we'll wrap it up. So thanks for joining. Let's do this shit. Okay, so new prediction. There's only one over the past 3 weeks. The newsletter last came out on January 8th, so I only had 3 weeks for content. But the first one is, before 2030, a financial services company in the United States with over $1 trillion in assets under management will offer consumers a financial instrument giving them broad exposure to the cryptocurrency market. So this is predicting a couple things. One, that a major, like a Fidelity, something like that, a household name, will offer products to their clients so they can invest in cryptocurrencies. So that it's kind of a two-part prediction. One, that currently there's rumblings of it. Fidelity seems to be doing, JP Morgan Chase seems to be doing some stuff. There's rumblings of it, but nothing's happened yet. I can't go to fidelity.com and just purchase Bitcoin. And the other side of this is that they will create an index, so giving you broad exposure to the cryptocurrency market. I'll talk a little bit more about this, but I'm really I'm not going to say bullish on the price of these cryptocurrencies. I mean, the price is one thing. Who knows? Is Ethereum or Bitcoin, are they valued at, $100 billion, whatever? I don't know. Who knows? All I know is that, and I'll talk a little bit more about this, but the technology here is super interesting. It's doing things today. It's working, and it's filling needs right now that conventional stuff cannot solve. So I'll riff more on that. But my point is, I think it's only going to get bigger. I think there'll be basically a broad index fund that one of these guys, Fidelity or whoever, BlackRock, they're the biggest, will offer something. That you put in $1,000, it spreads it over all the cryptocurrencies, or at least a few of them, the big ones, and it rebalances over time. So that's the deal. Okay, so now we have some predictions that have come true that I've published. I published this, I think, in 2018. Before 2030, Tesla will be worth $100 billion as an independent company. So they're currently worth something like $115 billion. They've been off the charts. And the reason, hey pup, I don't know. This is hilarious because they're going to be 100 billion. Didn't seem like that much. I think at the time that they were worth 56 billion when I made this prediction. And my point was, listen, I think they're probably overvalued even at 56 billion. I think they're probably overvalued now. My point is, listen, by 2030, they're not going to go bankrupt. They're going to be a solid company. They're going to be making shit. They're going to be making revenue. They're going to be profitable. I just think it's going to work out. You look at their like GDP per car, or if that's even a metric. I saw some guy on Bloomberg talking about this, but it's like $300,000 per car they've shipped or something, or they make per year, something like that, and compared to like $6,000 of a GM at Ford. So it's no doubt that they're not making that many cars, and they're valued at way more. These other guys are making a shit ton of cars. So there's definitely something there that it's possible they're overvalued. I think they're gonna do just fine. But yeah, so they were valued way over 100 billion well before 2030. So that we'll see what happens. They make great vehicles. I'll tell you this: first time I got into Tesla was Model 3. My sister's friend, boom, got in. I said, Detroit is fucked. The experience is insane. I've never had an experience like that in any vehicle. It felt insane. Now everyone's shilling Tesla, so I'm not going to just join in on that, but it is fucking insane. If you haven't been in a Tesla, it's difficult to talk about, I don't think it's going to do well. Like, just get in one, just drive one for around the block. Use the app for 10 minutes, not even 10 minutes, 10 seconds, and it blows your mind. Okay, so a prediction that actually was true, then it was false, so I had to correct it. There will be no confirmed U.S. casualties in Iran's attacks on the Al-Assad and Erbil military bases in Iraq. So this one initially predicted no casualties. There weren't. There's an official statement by the U.S. government there weren't any casualties. Then later, turns out 11 people went to the hospital. So a casualty doesn't mean you died or someone died. It just means you were injured or had to captured, taken out of combat. So basically, if you're not currently on active duty as a result of an event, you're a casualty. So unfortunately, what I really meant was deaths, but I said casualty. So that's my bad. So it's false. Can't give myself credit. I posted this on Reddit as well. A prediction in that one I said deaths, but it's not where I wasn't the official prediction. So got to count that as wrong. But my thinking here was that I didn't think Iran was trying to start any shit. I think they were trying to posture. And it seems like that's what's been going on. I don't think anything's going to go down. And if people would say, oh, World War III, war is going to come. What would war with Iran even look like? It wouldn't look like much. I don't know. At least not a conventional war. I don't think, maybe people don't mean conventional war when they say World War III, but it wouldn't, the differences in the military power of the U.S. versus Iran, it's not even, it's a huge gap. It's not even close. So I'm not worried. Iran's smarter than this. They're not going to do anything to poke the bear too much, but they did want to save face. They fired some missiles, pretty accurate, by the way. Hit their targets. I think we can all move on. Iran looks good. The U.S. looks good, whatever. Or maybe the U.S. looks bad. Who knows? People, maybe we shouldn't have killed that guy. It is what it is. Okay, so here's an update to some of my predictions. So here's also what I do with my predictions. If I make a prediction, some of these go out 2030, 2040, 2070. If I see something in the news that is related to that prediction, I'll post it Where I posted the prediction originally on No Gradient, I'll post on Twitter and I'll post on No Gradient, and I'll just say, okay, here's an update to that prediction. Here's just something related to the progress of it, blah blah blah, just to kind of get a touch point in there. So here's an article from Financial Times. The EU ramps up its Brexit demands. Speed of decisions in trade talks will be tied to UK's willingness to accede to Brussels' needs. So Brussels, that's where the EU is located in Belgium. Also, speaking of which, I'm shooting from the hip here. It's called shooting from the hip. I will be wrong on certain things. I don't have a computer up here. I'm not going to Google shit. I'm not going to fact check it. I fact check most of this shit. But if you really want the correct wording, you want the correct links to everything, look at the newsletter, look at the site. It's all there. This is, again, shooting from the hip in every sense of the word. So this prediction, I had a prediction that the EU will not have a trade deal signed with the UK. Or rather, the UK will not have a trade deal signed with the EU by the end of 2020. Boris Johnson campaigned in November, I believe. He said, we're going to get done by 2020. It's going to be a free trade deal, blah, 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 like the EU did with Canada. The EU-Canada trade deal is like a giant. It's like 3 encyclopedias. It's fucking huge. You don't just say trade deal, no tariffs, boom. And it's free trade, and we're all going to live happily ever after. This shit is hard, and I think my prediction is that this will not get done by 2020. It will go into 2021 at least. Anyway, yeah, the Financial Times was saying, listen, if the UK wants a fast trade deal, they're going to have to accede to Brussels' demands. The EU does not want to make this easy for the UK. They don't want to encourage other member states to leave. So they're going to make it as hard. They're going to make the UK bleed, to put it bluntly. So we'll see how that goes. That'll be interesting. But anyway, just an update on that. Also, another update. Google Fi gets $70 unlimited mobile plan plus free Google One membership. So this is related to a prediction I made that said Google One, which is their, they offer support, free, storage. They offer some things, discounts on hotels, all this shit. Basically, you buy a Pixel device, you buy Google hardware. At one point in the future, I think before 2030, I said, you will get a free Google One membership. So I said with hardware. This is saying Google Fi, you get Google One membership. You get a Google One membership with an unlimited Google Fi plan. So my thinking here is that, Apple has their kind of subscription with the iPhone where you get a new one every year. Amazon has Prime. I think we're moving towards this. I think eventually Apple's gonna be like, give us $1,000 a year. We'll just give you even more than a new phone. Apple Music included. Apple Care, everything. So I think the subscription shit's gonna be only increase. Okay, so that's all the updates on the predictions. So articles. So No Gradient endorses Joe Biden for the Democratic Party primary. No Gradient endorses Joe Biden for the 2020 Democratic Party presidential primary because he is most likely to defeat the incumbent and 45th president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, who is a bad president. Yeah, I see people complain about this. We should nominate someone that we like, not someone that... No. Fuck that shit. We should nominate someone that we think can beat Trump. That's my opinion on the matter. And the Economist did a reason being, and I posted in this article. There's 2 main reasons that Sanders has the highest chance, and who knows? Listen, maybe Bernie does. I don't know, but here's the reasons they gave, and the Economist, I think they do excellent reporting. It's funny. I'll go through some of this shit, but The Economist, Benedict Evans of, just Ben Evans, his newsletter, Ben Thompson, Peter Zeihan. There's these people that I follow their newsletters. I follow what they say. They affect a lot of what gets published on No Gradient. They affect a lot of my thinking. Sometimes I just feel like a fraud. I'm like, listen, these guys said this thing. I agree with it. I'm going to put a different slant on it, and that's now my opinion. But my point is identifying people or publications that do really good work and then basically saying, I think they do good work. You should listen to what they say. I think is a good thing for public discourse. I don't just need to repeat everything as my own. I don't need to have a new take on anything. On everything. Sometimes I got new takes. I've got stuff. Obviously, I'm not just that's coming straight from the heart. But a lot of these things that you read things to learn. Who do you read from? It's important who you read from. You don't just sit in a box and I learn things. You're reading it from somewhere and you're forming your opinions somewhere. So I'm very upfront about where I get my opinions. So anyway, so the reason that they said was, so to put it, to quote them, because this is talking about Joe Biden, because he is more moderate than Mr. Sanders, so both more likely to attract swing voters and less likely to motivate Republicans to vote against him. So this is the first one. There's a study done with the House races and sometime in the 2000s. Again, I'm shooting from the hip here. Some people out of, I think, Stanford. Again, this is all in the newsletter. It's all, you can see this on nogradient.com if you want to find the source material. But they basically said that when you get nominees that are pretty far or pretty extreme on one side, it basically galvanizes the other side. And this is true of the left and the right. So you get people extreme on the right, they're going to galvanize the left and vice versa. So one of the things they say is your average American viewed Hillary Clinton as more extreme than Donald Trump. So it actually galvanized Donald Trump. If you're more extreme, you galvanize the other side more than you galvanize your own side. So it has you're shooting yourself in the foot. Okay, so that's the first reason. The other reason is Joe Biden's strength with both black and racially conservative white voters could make a big difference in swing states. So that's another reason he's doing well with particular groups of people in these swing states. And Bernie Sanders doesn't do as well in this particular area. So we'll see. These are two pretty solid reasons. So March 3rd, Super Tuesday, I'm voting out of California. I'm going to vote for Joe Biden, barring some major shit. And I get it. He's not fully there. Sometimes you're like, what the fuck is this guy saying? But, it is what it is. Jesus, I don't know what to tell you. Also, absent from this analysis, and I'm kind of pissed off the Economist didn't even talk about Michael Bloomberg. They've talked about him before. They didn't talk about him in this. I'm curious. I mean, he's kind of the dark horse in my opinion. We'll see. Also, another thing on this, I don't think Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, I think it is fair to say they are extreme. I mean, basically what they're saying is extreme. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying it's extreme. Pay for, what they're, extreme, with the healthcare stuff, wipe away student debt, wipe away medical debt. These are extreme things. It's never been done before in the history of the United States. So yes, it's fair to call it extreme. So relax. It's extreme. Don't get triggered because that's what it is. I just don't think that the extreme. I don't think Americans are going to buy into the whole, pay for everything thing. We kind of saw this with the Labour Party, with the UK, the Conservatives, Boris Johnson, like the most unliked party. They have a fat majority, but he's like the most unliked prime minister. Their party's unliked or something in like a long, long time, several decades. The Labour Party got their asses handed to them because they were talking about crazy shit. They were talking about socializing, the state taking over control of a bunch of shit in the country, and people just don't buy this. So we went to the polls in the UK. Our UK brothers, our British brothers and sisters over there, they went to the polls and they said, Labour Party, get the fuck out of here. So I don't think Americans are. They're going to be similar. They're going to get to the polls and be like, nah, dude, I'm not down for the whole, government getting, a shit ton bigger. And to those that say, well, what about Obama? Obama wasn't even close to what Bernie and Elizabeth Warren are saying. He was pretty moderate, all things considered. Thought he was a solid president, but pretty moderate. He's not saying the same shit. And yeah, he won 2 terms, not by being crazy. Well, I'm not gonna call Bernie and Elizabeth crazy. Whatever. Let's relax on that. But my point is, he ran a solid campaign twice, and he wasn't, saying these crazy extreme things that some on the left are saying. So I vote for Biden. That's the No Gradient. It's No Gradient's endorsing him for the primary. We'll see who wins the primary. Then we'll do another endorsement for the president or the general election. So we'll see. That's the hot take on that. Politics, it is what it is. Let's just try to approach it with a level head. Let's be reasonable, and God bless America. Okay, so next up, we got a couple more articles that were posted. OnePlus and the elephant in the room. Okay, so this is an article about the company OnePlus. You might not have heard of them. They're pretty big. If you know the Android space, Android phone space, OnePlus. They make fucking epic devices for cheap. Like basically flagship level devices, Samsung, Google, they're coming out with $1,000 devices. These guys do it for $600, like almost half the cost, and they're really, really, really good. I think, let's see, BKG Electronics owns Oppo, which owns OnePlus. Anyway, it's a Chinese company. I wrote this article, OnePlus and the Elephant in the Room. I follow Android news very closely. I love the Android space. I love the phone space in general. But no one talks about the fact that this is a Chinese company, and the security isn't part of the calculus. No one's worried that worried about the security of these devices, given China had a law 2 years ago, I think it went into effect, that basically compels anyone to work with the government to do again, I forget the exact thing. Look it up. I'm shooting from the hip here, but basically compels them to work with the government and give them basically carte blanche access to the company and get data from them, et cetera, et cetera. So, listen, I'm not saying OnePlus is doing that. There's been no evidence that OnePlus is working with them, but it's not even. My point is, it should be part of the discussion. People are just throwing their money. So you can buy the OnePlus through T-Mobile, and you can buy it direct online. But anyway, so it is gaining adoption here, but no one's even talking about it. And I'm just like, dude, can we even, Ars Technica, MKBHD, Ron Amadeo at Ars Technica, the people I follow, these guys are great. They're just not even talking about it. So we'll see. I think it's worth at least a discussion, given China's that law in the books, and given the things that the Chinese government is willing to do. Related to that, wrote an article. The Titan M chip is the most underrated Pixel feature. So Pixel line is Google's phone line. They're on the Pixel 4 now. The Titan M was released with Pixel 3. So the Titan M chip boasts security improvements across the board of the bootloader, lock screen, disk, third-party apps, and firmware. So it's a huge. Makes the device very secure. Google spent a lot of time on this. They have there's $1 million bounty if you can crack into any of this, the Titan M chip. Apple has a similar bounty for some of their products. The next closest bounty, I think, is like Samsung. I forget. I wrote it in this post. I think it's like $200K. $200K if you can crack a Samsung device. My point is, if you're putting a price on finding a vulnerability, researchers will go after that and find it, and they'll get money. They'll try to get that money. So the fact that there's $1 million bounty on the Titan M chip is huge. And Pixel 4 was largely considered by a lot of the hardos in the Android community, largely considered, it was a big shoulder shrug. No one really, it's like, this is using an old SoC. It's not blah, blah, blah. It's kind of getting dumped on. But no one talks about the Titan M chip. These devices are super, super important to our lives. They're the most intimate things in our lives, more than our significant other, I would say. How's that for a hot take? They have information on here. If someone were to get control of it, they have information there that could really do some serious damage. So the thing is, I think the fact that the Titan M chip isn't even no one even talks about when reviewing the Pixel. No one even says, listen, they take security very seriously at Google. Maybe we should talk about this in the review and compare it to other devices who probably don't take security as seriously. Again, this is another one. I'm just like, let's at least talk about it. These phones are extremely, extremely important. They're vital they're vital to your security. They're vital to keeping you keeping you safe, and I think we should at least talk about that. A device that is with us 24/7, 365, knows where we go, all our most intimate texts, photos, videos, banking information, blah, blah, blah. Let's at least talk about security, people. Come on, we can do better. Okay, so now on to those are new articles. Now on to no gradient retracts. So no gradient retracts will track articles that no longer represent the beliefs of this publication or have not stood the test of time. So what that means is, I'm gonna be wrong. Things that are no gradient, they're gonna get posted. They're gonna be wrong, flat out. Not always, sometimes. And sometimes I'll look at an article and say, I don't believe that anymore. I don't think it stood the test of time. Let's put it somewhere so people know that, listen, this was a mistake, or maybe the facts have changed. Maybe at the time it wasn't a mistake, but maybe the facts have changed. Now, if the facts change, you should kind of change. You should change your opinion. There's a war on changing your opinion across the board. I'm not going to say in this country. I think, God forbid, you change your opinion, especially politicians. You change your opinion on something, all of a sudden you're a scumbag, and now you're a flip-flopper. It's like, when the facts change, people, change your fucking opinion. It's okay to change your opinion. In fact, if you haven't changed an opinion in the last 6 months, like a pretty important opinion in your life, or a year, you should probably look around and be like, okay, maybe I shouldn't hold on to shit so tightly, because you're likely wrong. No one's right about everything. Change your opinions. What is that thing? Some VC investors, strong opinions weakly held. Yeah. Anyway. So here, this is part of that effort to be transparent about no gradient when we're wrong. We do this with the predictions, and we're going to do it with our articles as well. Okay, so the first one this was one of the first articles published on no gradient. It's called Big Tech is Eating the World. So in 2011, Mark Andreessen declared software is eating the world. And I went on to write, it is now evident that software doing the eating is owned by a smaller and smaller set of companies. These big tech companies, Alphabet, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, and Microsoft, are backed by serious infrastructure, profits, data, custom silicon, ecosystems, and are increasingly vertical. Okay, so I threw a lot of shit against the wall there, and this isn't something I would write today. But my point is that Benedict Evans has actually shifted my opinions on this a lot, and he's got some really good opinions on this stuff. So basically, his whole thing is the incumbents look indestructible until they don't. They look invincible until they don't. Things change. Microsoft used to be viewed as this behemoth that no one could touch, and then boom, the web came, and then Google ate their lunch. Mobile came, and Apple and Google ate their lunch. Microsoft's still a great company, over $1 trillion market cap. It's doing great, but we don't fear Microsoft anymore. That's Benedict Evans' point. You zoom in right now. Oh, Google, Facebook, these are kind of the two that get the most. Oh no, we're never going to be. These guys are going to have control of us forever unless we break them up or something. No, I'm less. Things happen. Big companies get big, and then they're scary, and then they're not scary anymore. This is just part of the cycle. They're still going to be very big, I think, probably for, at least 50 years. I mean, they're not going anywhere anytime soon, I don't think. But I think, within a couple decades, we won't fear Google and Facebook like we do today. That the conversation will have shifted to either another set of companies. Actually, that's probably the only case. We're always going to be scared of people with power, as we should. Keep them in check. But I'm no longer worried that big tech's going to take over and everything's done and blah, blah, blah. I'm not worried about it, and I think it's a bit fear-mongering. And the data, if history's any indication, doesn't back that up. So we'll see. Another one, and I would struggle with this one. I had an article, Spotify and the Power of Defaults. Basically, I was saying Spotify doesn't come on your Android phone. It doesn't come on your iOS device. It's a commodity. Music stream is a commodity. This was published in like a few years ago, but basically I was like, I don't see long-term success for Spotify. And I just make sure we're still recording here. I can't even tell. Damn, this glare. Let's see here. Yeah, we're still recording, I think. Hold on. And we're good. We're still recording. Okay. Yeah, I'm less concerned with I think so what I was saying, commodity streaming, I was like, okay, Spotify, they're playing music. Okay, Google Play Music does this, Apple Music does it. Like, I don't see the long-term benefit here. I don't think they're going to be. I still think they're going to get acquired before 2028. But my point is, I think they're gaining subscribers, even though Apple Music is the default on iPhones. And I said like a break. Oh, Google Play Music is the default on Android and blah. No one uses Google Play Music. Google doesn't even use it. They integrate with Spotify. They don't even. And then they got YouTube Music. They don't even care about it anymore. But my point is, Spotify's doing pretty well, doing solid. They're gaining subscribers. They're a public company now. They're going into the podcast space. They're kind of, they're mixing up. I guess my miscalculation was music, I think, is a big enough thing to not just be resorted to just a commodity thing. Amazon's got their own streaming thing. I think it's a big enough thing that you can do special things with it, that it will be its own product. But we'll see. Anyway, that's No Gradient Retracts. Now to No Gradient Tracks. So No Gradient Tracks monitors the accuracy of forward-looking statements of public discourse. So I'm sure you get this feeling. You'll you'll be reading something, you'll be watching some pundit just spraying trash out of their mouth, and they'll be saying forward-looking statements all the time. Like, I'm not going to do an example. Whatever. People make forward-looking statements all the time. No one tracks these forward-looking statements. They say them, and in a week, no one remembers them. No one gives a shit. No one goes back and checks if they're real. No gradient tracks the goal is to do just that. Anytime I read something in my research for no gradient, I see a forward-looking statement that I think, okay, cool, it's a falsifiable thing. Let's track this. I add it to no gradient track. So I have a long article where I just update constantly and talk about new forward-looking statements, and let's track this. Some of these go out 10 years, some of these go out a couple years, but I'm like, let's track this, and then when we, and we'll come back to it, and we'll see, was this person right? And if they're right, props, and if they're not, well, I'm going to tweet at them or do something, be like, yo, bro, you were wrong. Yeah, and it's okay to be wrong, but no one tracks the accuracy of their statements. No gradient does with predictions, and then this no gradient retracts. Listen, the assumption of no gradient is that we will be wrong. That is the assumption. We're going to do it as best we can, but we will be wrong. It is hard shit to get right. And when we are wrong, we're going to point it out. We're going to track it. And when we're right, we're going to track that too. We're going to be hard on ourselves. That's the deal. No one else does that. Maybe I don't know. Yeah, and it pisses me off, frankly. Okay, so no gradient track. So one of these came true. So The Economist said in early January, Brexit will formally happen next month to much fanfare. I think this was in December 2019. Anyway, so The Economist said, it's going to happen next month. Okay, so Britain did formally leave the EU on January 31st. So it was likely that it was going to happen, but especially those statements where people just say, or publications say, oh, it's going to happen. It's like, I want to track those. Is it going to happen? If you just brush it off and say it is, let's track that. Okay, so Brexit did happen. They've left, but they still got to do the trade deal stuff and all that stuff. So it's, it hasn't, there's a lot of details to get worked out. Now's the hard part, but anyway, it did happen. So that's true. So here's some new ones that I've added. In 2019, multiple independent teams worked together to build the software necessary to launch the first phase of Eth2. There is now little doubt that Eth2 will enter production in 2020. This is Josh Stark. He did a great wrap-up post on Ethereum of 2019. And he's saying it's going to go into production in 2020. I'll talk a little bit more about Eth2, but basically, Ethereum, more than any other blockchain right now, that's where so much development is happening. Things are getting built on top of Ethereum, and it's fucking epic, and it's working. I'm super, super excited about Ethereum. There's no technology I'm more excited about than Ethereum, full stop. Well, blockchain in general, but Ethereum specifically, I really think there's something here. So this is Peter Zeihan, who I mentioned earlier. He has a newsletter. I suggest you subscribe to it, Zeihan on geopolitics. Anyway, he said, China's crash will be much like its rise, big, bold, brash, loud, all-consuming, and in hindsight, completely inevitable. So, you hear a lot in the media, oh, China's going to pass the U.S. in GDP. They're going to be the new world superpower, blah, blah, blah. Peter Zeihan, he's kind of, he's a China hawk, and he does... I don't agree with everything he says. You shouldn't agree with everything everyone says. But so I guess I don't even need to say that. But my point is, his thing is that China's got a lot of problems. They got this whole state-run shit that's not sustainable. They got a lot of debt, way more than the U.S. In terms of GDP. These state-run enterprises, Xi Jinping kind of getting involved in companies, not letting them do their thing. I just don't see a long-term working out. There's also, the Uyghur population. I believe that's how you pronounce it. The internment of the Muslims, million of them. It's like they got shit going on. Zeihan's point is this isn't sustainable. They're not gonna become the world superpower. In fact, it's going to be the opposite. They're going to implode on themselves. So we'll see. I'm tracking the statement. It'll be interesting to follow. Fun stuff. It's my thing with following like world events. It's just so fascinating. People read books and watch TV shows and shit like that and movies and and think that's epic. And those are epic. I'm not dogging on those, but dude, look the fuck around, dude. The real world is insane. Like fuck, man, it blows my mind. It's like a real life epic happening in real time, and it's actually real. Not that fiction's not real, but it's not actually happening. Let's say that. You can still learn from it, whatever. But it's like, come on, dude. We got the real world around us. Fucking open your eyes, dude. It's insane. Okay, next statement I'm tracking on no gradient tracks. Hold on, we got some wind here, and it's It's kind of pissing me off here. Okay, so boom, let's put this paperweight down. Okay, here we go. Next one. This is from a guy, God, what's his last name? Shit, his first name's Ben. He writes for Epsilon Theory. I don't know how I feel about Epsilon Theory. It's a publication that I've been following recently, and I don't really know how they feel. It feels a little extreme. I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about it. But anyway, he was saying something. He was kind of riling people up on Twitter, and anytime you're trying to rile people up on Twitter, I'm like, okay, bro, if you actually think this, I'm going to track your ass and tweet at you and say, no, you were just riling people up. So he said, I think Harvey Weinstein will be acquitted in his criminal trial, or at worst, he'll plead out to a much lesser set of charges. So January 6th is when Harvey Weinstein went to his criminal trial in New York. This Epsilon Theory, this publication, this guy represents, was like, yeah, I think it's going to be, he's going to get acquitted or plead a much lesser set of charges. So we'll see. I don't think he will, but it's a good thing to rile people up. Oh, our justice system's for the rich, blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, let's see about that. There's a lot of evidence against him, so let's relax on that and just assume that he's going to get off. But maybe he will. Dude, I don't know. I'm tracking it. It's on No Gradient Tracks. Check it out. Okay, this next one, last one, is from Stan Druckenmiller, who's a billionaire hedge fund investor, worked under Soros, I believe, when he was younger. This guy's a cobra. I love watching interviews with hedge fund guys or investors and getting their outlook on the world, because they actually have to put skin in the game. They actually have to put money with their beliefs. They don't just get to pontificate on a TV show or get to, hell, even like me, and just spray shit out of their mouth and, I think this, blah, 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 with with nothing going wrong. If they're wrong, who gives a shit? But when investors or hedge fund guys are wrong, they lose millions and millions of dollars. So they actually got skin in the game. So anytime they speak, I really like hearing their opinion. And yeah, I get the whole maybe they're just saying shit to steer the market one way so they can make more money. Maybe, but largely, I take them at their word. And Stan's been doing interviews with Eric Schatzker of Bloomberg for a while. And they do an interview about once a year. They're always so good. Anyway. So he had a hot take on Brexit, and I'm going to quote him. I recommend looking at the whole interview, and I link to it in the newsletter. And I'll link to this shit in the YouTube and podcast show notes, so you can look at all this stuff. I think I've got a lot of stuff, or maybe I'll just link to the newsletter. I'm not going to copy and paste 5 pages of shit. Okay. So he said, frankly, when I look at what's going on in Europe and I look what's going on in Britain, I was always sort of a Brexiteer, because they did perfectly fine for 500 years without that union of countries down there who seem to all hate each other and can't make a decision on anything. So I think this is actually going to be very good for the British economy. I separate myself from most on that. Okay, so he thinks it's going to be good for the British economy. We'll see how this plays out over the next decade. Maybe it'll be good, maybe it won't. Who knows? But it'll be interesting to track this. So, okay. For the last segment of this little shindig, shooting from the hip #1. It's been fun so far. This is chill. Don't have a guest to annoy me. Just kidding. Love you guests. Respect. But it's just riffing. Me to you. Well, me to myself. Anyway, here's the next one. It's called Across the Desk. So this is just interesting pieces that shape the thinking at No Gradient. So things that I read that have an impact on me, have an impact on the publication, that I'm just like, okay, this is really good shit. I think other people should read this. I'm going to track it, because I don't got all the answers. Like I said, I follow other people that are super smart, and I think you should follow them too. I think you should follow other people, even over No Gradient. If you can only follow one thing, I'd probably follow, something else. At least right now, let's be honest. I mean, some of these guys are super smart. Well, I would say just follow The Economist. If you're going to read one publication, follow The Economist. They're not right about everything, but they're more right about a lot of things, and they're principled, and they're upfront about their biases. And yeah, anyway, so across that, this is just shit I'm reading from around the internet, and things that shape my thinking. And I don't necessarily agree with all this stuff. In fact, some of the stuff I don't, but it's at least, I lock it in the memory bank and say, okay, let's save this for later. Okay, here's one. This is from Chris Dixon. I believe it's Chris Dixon. He had an article. He's got a really cool blog. He's at A16Z, one of the big time venture capital firms in Silicon Valley. Anyway, he said, blockchains have arrived at an opportune time. Internet services have become central to our economic, political, and cultural lives, yet the trust between users and the people who run these services is breaking down. So he's a really good article about the problems blockchains can solve. And I agree with him. I think we really have something here with blockchain. Maybe it's not Bitcoin. Maybe it's not Ethereum. Maybe this all dies, and in 5 years there's something completely new. Who knows? But I really, really think there's something here. There's really something here that I think, and there's already something here. Like there, and I'll riff more on what is actually going on, things you can do today with cryptocurrency and blockchains that you just can't do or you couldn't do before. So it's an interesting time. People are like, oh, big tech, scared of these big companies. Well, blockchain is radical transparency, to use Ray Dalio, just popped in my head. But anyway, radical transparency. You can see what these solutions are doing. The code is verifiable. That's the beauty of blockchains. You don't have to trust all the nodes, but somehow it all works. And yeah, I think we're going to see some really cool stuff come out of blockchain. So anyway, that's a cool article. Check it out. Okay, so Benedict Evans, another guy, his newsletter releases once a week. He's a total legend. So here's another thing. So he said, some people celebrated this as a triumph for free competition on the web. Welcome to the unintended consequences. God, he's a cobra. So he said this in reference to a big New York Times splash on Clearview, a company that has scraped millions of people's photos and names from all over the web, indexed them into a database using facial recognition, and is selling this to law enforcement so that the police can upload a random photo and probably get a name. Lots of interesting issues here. Okay. New York Times, it's pretty solid. They get people up in arms and shit. Like once every couple weeks they'll say some shit and no one will care about it in 2 weeks. This is one of those things that's like, okay, dude, relax. Like this is, it's important to cover this shit, but you don't need to say the facts. You don't need to fearmonger about it. Anyway, Benedict Evans' hot take on this was, he had 3, but I'll just point out one. He said, U.S. tech companies used to try to block and sue scrapers. Until LinkedIn lost a lawsuit, and the judge said that not only could they not sue, but also that they're not even allowed to try to block scraping by any technical means. So we want Facebook and LinkedIn, we want all these things to be more open, right? But welcome to, as Benedict Evans said, the unintended consequences. Okay, when you allow anyone to scrape the data, anyone can do anything they want with it. So this is a company called Clearview said, we're going to scrape this shit, and bada bing, bada boom, we're going to sell this shit to law enforcement. So anytime anytime the government is regulating something or trying to fix one problem, it's like Hydra. There's gonna be other problems, not always, but there's gonna be other unintended consequences that you really need to look out for. This is one of them. So, we'll actually talk more about this in a little bit. But anyway, there's unintended consequences to show. You think one thing's gonna keep you safer, it's gonna freak you out. It's gonna cause some other thing that's gonna screw you in another regard. So let's try to be level-headed about this shit. Okay, next one. This is an official statement from Apple on every few months they have a spat with the FBI, bang on their chest. Pensacola. This is regarding the Pensacola shooter. So here's what they said. The FBI is always saying, "Give us more data," or unlock these iPhones. Blah blah. Tear down that wall. Unlock that iPhone. Anyway, here's their statement. We have always maintained there's no such thing as a backdoor just for the good guys. Backdoors can also be exploited by those who threaten our national security and the data security of our customers. Today, law enforcement has access to more data than ever before in history, so Americans do not have to choose between weakening encryption and solving investigations. We feel strongly encryption is vital to protecting our country and our users' data. So 2 things here. One, well, first of all, I agree everything they're saying, but don't worry, I'll bitch slap them after I agree with them. You can't put a back door in something and say, okay, this is only going to be used by the U.S. government, and we'll give the U.S. government a key and only they can use it. That's not how security works. You can't do that. It's not. It needs to be secure against everyone. You can't carve out exceptions. That is a fact of security that's been true for fucking years. Backdoors don't work. The bad guys get a hold of them. We've seen this. NSA's tools get leaked. You know what I mean? Like NSA's hacking tools get leaked. It's like, okay, that's not exactly the same thing, but the point is, you open up Pandora's box, other people are going to gain access to it. So that's one thing. The other thing is the fact that I'm really glad they said this, because I never even thought about this before, because I have problems personally with, okay, maybe the U.S. government, if you get a warrant, you should be able to look at all your shit, right? Yeah, on one hand, and an encryption today is preventing them from doing that. But Apple made an excellent point. Today, law enforcement has access to more data than ever before in history. It's easier to solve investigations than ever before. So the fact that law enforcement needs this information is BS. And I think Apple makes a really good point. They don't need this to do their job. They have more information than ever before. So let's be level-headed about it. Another thing, there we go, Snag. We got video live on this, by the way. It's not live, just kidding. Okay, another thing on this, Ben Thompson talks about this. He calls it a strategy credit. So this is where I bitch slap Apple. He calls it a strategy credit. So it's where when a company does something, they get credit. They give themselves credit for something, but it doesn't affect their bottom line at all. So Apple doesn't need your data because they don't make money off of it. You know what I mean? So them saying, we're going to protect your data and stuff, not even specifically with this, I'm saying more in general. Like, we don't make money off your data. What happens on your iPhone stays on your iPhone. So, yeah, they don't make money off it, so of course they're going to say that. Similarly, Twitter, with their political ads, they said, we're going to ban political ads. And it's like, bro, you don't make any money off this. No one, you're trying to be a hero. No one gives a shit. Like, God. Anyway. Another thing that Apple works with the Chinese government, with a state-run cloud provider for Chinese citizens, the iCloud. So they work with the Chinese government. So Apple can relax on, privacy and information is on your iPhone. iCloud shit's not encrypted. All your shit's backed up. If you have an iCloud enabled, Apple has access to everything you have. Full stop. If you have iCloud enabled, anything you back up on iCloud, Apple, the U.S. government, and in the case of China, they probably don't even need a warrant. They just go in there to look at everything. So it's like, Apple, relax. I know in China you make a shit ton of money off them. I'm not telling you not to do that. I'm just telling you, let's relax. Or maybe Apple doesn't need to be the one to point this out, but people, let's point it out to each other and be like, okay, we know it's a company trying to make money. Let's point out where it's contradicting itself. Next one, Beginner's Guide to Decentralized Finance. This was by Coinbase. So Coinbase is a great. Coinbase is an epic company. I actually applied for a job there, didn't get accepted. So I love Coinbase. They make great shit. That's how you. My number one, I recommend if people want to buy cryptocurrency. Which, just disclaimer, I never recommend anyone buys cryptocurrency. I never look anyone in the eye and say you should do this because you'll make money off it. Fuck that shit. Anyone who says that, you should run away. I would, I'd say if you're okay with losing it, then go for it. And yeah, you might make money off of it, but just know that it is risky. That's all I'm going to say on that. Anyway, if you can buy cryptocurrency, Coinbase is the most trusted. But other than just purchasing cryptocurrency, Coinbase also allows you to, or not allows you to, excuse me, they also publish a bunch of shit on the cryptocurrency space. So they're really in the community, publish really good articles about, okay, what's going on. And they do more stuff than just let you buy and sell cryptocurrency. So one of the things they had an ultimate guide to a beginner's guide to decentralized finance. They talked about all this shit you can do right now with cryptocurrency on the Ethereum blockchain. It's a really cool article. If you're wondering, what did cryptocurrency do? It's a fad, blah, blah, blah. Read that article. You can do things right now. In fact, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 things right now that I believe you can do with cryptocurrency today that are better than anything else, better than conventional means. So basically, that you can't do it without cryptocurrency. So the first is provenance, proving provenance. So I do this with no gradients predictions. If you want to prove that you said something at a certain time, there's no, you can tweet it, you can publish it on Facebook, you can publish it on Reddit or some shit like that, and you have a timestamp, and it was proved you said it at this time. And No Gradient publishes on Twitter and on Facebook, publishes predictions, and it was said at a certain time, blah, blah, blah. Now you have to trust Facebook or Twitter or any of these other things that they're not going to change that timestamp, and they might. So far they haven't shown they will do that. But just off the top of my head, Twitter removes people from their platform all the time, and I think they're doing it a little bit too much, to be honest. But you just can't trust it. You can't trust that they're not going to change the timestamp or do anything. Anyway, the reason provenance just basically proves that. I think it's used in art a lot of times. Provenance proves the ownership, it proves authenticity, blah blah blah. So for no gradient predictions, cryptocurrency, blockchains, you can publish, and I do this, I walk through it all in no gradient prediction. You want to see the process how I do this, but I publish a hash of my predictions on the Bitcoin blockchain to prove that I said them at a certain time. So a hash of something just is a code, basically a code that represents something. So if you take like a page of text, you can convert it into like a 100-character thing, and it represents that. So you can't do. There's nothing else that I trust more right now than publishing a hash of those predictions on the Bitcoin blockchain today. I publish on Twitter. Sure, I can record a video, publish on YouTube, and say this was the time, and hold up a New York Times headline. Blah blah blah. This is the thing. There's nothing. Those things you can edit the video. You got to trust Twitter. You got to trust YouTube. You got to trust all this shit on Bitcoin. No. You can publish on the Bitcoin blockchain, and it's more verifiable than anything else. There's nothing even close, in my opinion. So that's one thing. The other thing is a little more applicable. Most people aren't going to use this. Okay, where's my piece of paper here? Here we go. Okay, the next one is you can send a US dollar across the border for basically 2 cents. So you can send money internationally, the US dollar, on the Ethereum blockchain using USDC and there's other stable coins you can do this with too, but USDC. I can send a dollar from here to anywhere in the world to someone's phone for 2 cents. That's about what you pay in fees. Very low. I can spend $1 billion for 2 cents. It doesn't matter how much I send. There's shit like today. You're doing remittances. Anytime you hear the word remittance, it means you're sending money back across borders. So a lot of times, for example, the United States, many Mexican immigrants send money back to Mexico. Like Western Union is one way they send money. Send money back to their families in Mexico. And you pay like 5% in fees. It's fucking ludicrous. 5% is like the minimum. You're getting fleeced on fees. You can now currently send a US dollar anywhere in the world for 2 cents. Full stop. You cannot do that before cryptocurrency. Full stop. This technology is here. You can do it right now. You can do it today. But if you actually want to do this, and I actually want to write a piece on this. I didn't. But if you actually want to do this, there's someone I know in overseas who has a job overseas, and they have a bank account within that country, so that they can get paid. But then they also have a U.S. bank account. When they send money to their U.S. bank account, they get fleeced 5%. So if you actually want to solve this, you can do this today. You'd have to make, in this case, you can make a Coinbase account in one country. You make it in Coinbase is in a lot of countries. Let's say you make it in Mexico. Let's say you're working in Mexico, and you want to send money to the U.S. You can then make a Coinbase account in the U.S. You could send that U.S. dollar to your Coinbase account in the United States. You can send as $1,000, $10,000, and you wouldn't get 5%, charge 5% on the fees. So this is today. You can do this. It's like, look around, people. This shit is here. This isn't like, oh, cryptocurrency, the bad. Like, you can already do shit with it today. It's insane. And it gets me super, super pumped. Okay. The other thing is, with your money right now, with USDC or there's another stable coin called DAI, you can get about 6% on 6% interest for locking your money up in a contract. So basically, you hear about savings accounts, 2% interest, or the market gives you about on average 7% a year. The stock market. Today, right now, you can lock your money up in a contract. Compound Finance is one of them that does this. Oasis app does this. Lock your money up. So if I put $1,000 in this contract, I leave it in there for a year, I will get $60 in interest, 6%. Wait. Scanning. Yeah, that's correct. 6%. That's an insane interest rate. Now, the reason it's high is because you're kind of paying for risk. And the reason that you're able to gain interest is because then they're loaning out the money that you loan out. Or you're giving them your money, lock it up, then they loan it out. And, it's like a bank. But anyway, it's crazy. You can earn interest right now. If you're unbanked, if you don't have a bank account, and people in the U.S. and people in developed countries say, I don't get it. I can Venmo people. Okay, imagine being in a country where you can't trust the banking system as well, and you don't, basically, and you can't trust the government. These cryptocurrency is a huge boon. All of a sudden, I can hold U.S. dollars, so it's stable, so I don't need to hold Bitcoin, which can go up or way up or down in value. I can hold U.S. dollars. I can gain interest on that money. I have access without signing up with a bank, without doing any of this shit. It's all I need is a phone and internet connection. This is an insane innovation. This is huge. This is crazy. So I think I'm long all this stuff. I think it's going to be really cool. I'm really excited for the next decade. Okay, the last one, prediction markets. So Augur is a company. There's some other prediction markets. Augur's the most well-known one. Prediction markets, basically you can bet on anything. Centralized prediction markets like Predicted and some others, they fleece you on fees. Whereas something like Augur, you're paying about 1% of fees, a lot lower. And you can bet on things, and you can be anywhere in the world. In the U.S., it's kind of hard to bet on sports. You have to use these janky ass websites. It's kind of hard to. You can't bet on elections. I think in Vegas you can, but you can't just sign on to a website, bet on an election. Like Predicted isn't available. It's available in the UK. It's not available in the US because of our laws here. Augur, these prediction markets, you can now Augur. I should say the Augur V2 is on the horizon. So Augur V1, it's kind of the UX isn't quite there, but Augur V2 is gonna be a hell of a lot better. Hopefully, we'll see. Maybe it won't be, but I think it will be. But basically, all my friends bet on sports and shit, and they're getting fleeced on fees. They're using these sketchy ass websites. I'm like, bro, I can't wait when Augur V2 comes out. I'm gonna play with it. I'm gonna be like, yo, honestly, you should just use this shit. And the reason that they don't charge much in fees is they have a really cool model where you buy rep token and you stake. You basically, if you have rep, you say how an event concluded. So if the Super Bowl, Kansas City Chiefs won, you basically report that they won. Bada bing, bada boom. And that's how it all works. So you have this rep token which you stake, and then you wouldn't stake it on the wrong outcome, because then the value of a rep token goes down, because the rep token has a price in the market. The more people trust rep, the higher the value that will be. That's the idea anyway. So those are the 4 things that I think are going on in cryptocurrency that you can do right now today that your average person would find interesting and use. So that's pretty beast. Let's see, where am I here? It's pretty windy here in Los Angeles at the No Grading Outdoor Studio, aka my parents' place. So we got, what's the next one? Bada bing. Okay, Ultimate Guide to Decentralized Prediction Markets. Okay, so Augur released a really cool post on Medium just talking about how prediction markets work. It's a deep dive if you're interested in that. If you're interested in sports betting on elections, go take a look at it. Super, super interesting stuff. V2 of Augur is supposed to be released, and the cutoff for V1 is February 8th, so I think that's when they can't take any more bets. So V2, sometime Q1 2020. Who knows? They say they're pretty close. They're getting the code verified, blah, blah, blah. We'll see. Okay. So another hot take from Benedict Evans. So I said I'd talk a little bit more about this, and this is why I put no gradient retracts. I put big tech is eating the world on that. I was like, are they eating the world? Okay, so how to lose a monopoly. Benedict Evans had an excellent post. It's called How to Lose a Monopoly, Microsoft, IBM, and Antitrust. So if you're worried about Google and Facebook and these big tech companies or any big company taking over and we need to break them up, read this article. Read it, because it's super fucking good. And he cuts through the bullshit that a lot of these, fucking, the way people cover tech news, I mean, media in general, everyone's media's broken. It's like everyone says that. I'm not going to say it because everyone says it. Everyone says it, but then it goes on, so it doesn't matter. I'm not even going to join in on it. Who gives a shit? The way he talks about tech is it's not fear-mongering. He's like, this is the deal, bro. Relax. And he's so relaxed, he doesn't even tell you to relax. I love it. Okay. So, god damn, this wind. Okay. So, here's some of his, he has 3 bullet points at the top of the article. I'm just going to read them straight up. A big rich company that dominates the market for its product, and a company that dominates the broader tech industry are 3 quite different things. Market cap isn't power. IBM ruled mainframes and Microsoft ruled PCs, and when those things were the center of tech, that gave them the dominance of the broader tech industry. When the focus of tech moved away from the mainframes and then PCs, IBM and then Microsoft lost that dominance. But that didn't mean they stopped being big companies. We just stopped being scared of them. For both IBM and Microsoft, market power in one generation of tech didn't give them market power in the next. And antitrust intervention didn't have much to do with it. It doesn't matter how big your castle is if the trade routes move somewhere else. I love that last line. It doesn't matter how big your castle is if the trade routes move somewhere else. Take Microsoft. They want the PCs, the internet hits the scene, and the internet really becomes big. And it didn't matter that they had a monopoly on the PC industry, because the PC, no one gives a shit. Phones came out, the internet got big. That became the new battleground. So it doesn't matter that you have a wall built around the PC. People are like, oh, they try to breach the walls, blah, 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 and then they realize, oh wait, we don't give a shit about this wall anymore. Let's go. There's this thing over here that completely shifted the game. So that's why yeah. God, Benedict Evans is a legend. I love his stuff. Anyway, so I would go read that. Okay, here's another one. How the 2010s killed the celebrity gossip machine. So yeah, I know, nightmare post. I forgot, it's on BuzzFeed, nightmare. It's like, oh, how social media and celebrities, blah, blah, blah. It's just such it sounds rough. It sounds like, oh my God, how the broader landscape of social media. It just sounds like a nightmare. But it's a really, really good article. Basically, the crux of it is social media gave power back to celebrities. They could control the message. They can control the narrative. All of a sudden, they can post photos of themselves on Instagram. They can post shit on YouTube. They can post shit on Twitter. To get information from celebrities, it was like paparazzi, dude. Paparazzi, you wanted photos, boom. Paparazzi, you wanted authentic photo, boom, boom, boom. Paparazzi. Now, the game is completely shifted. Celebrities now have more control over their lives and over the messaging they want to do. You don't need to find out about the Brangelina situation. They can by insider leak shit. They'll release a statement. I don't know if they release something on social media, but my point is there's a really good article just talking about how, now say what you will about celebrities, but dude, it's fucking hard being a celebrity, man. Like, yeah, I'm gonna say it's hard. God, I mean, I don't. First of all, I'm not speaking from experience. I can only imagine. You're just getting the shit kicked out of you 24/7, 365. Like, everyone's just trying to yell at you. You send you death threats, shit like that. Like, that's tough. And anything that gives more power back to individuals, anytime. This is a hallmark. This is a no gradient fucking central core belief. Anytime more power goes back to individuals is a good thing. Like, basically full stop on that. I'm sure that, there are there's exceptions to that. You can pick it apart. Listen, I'm in clogs. I'm in my parents' backyard. Relax. You want to pick apart my statements. That's fine. You can figure it out. But relax. I'm shooting from the hip here. But anything that gives power back to the individuals is a boon. So, that's a really cool article. I would take a look at it, or don't. Who gives a shit? Benedict Evans on the double-edged sword of user privacy. Apple clamps down on user privacy, make Facebook and Apple that much stronger. Okay, so this is another thing about Benedict Evans. So we cheer Apple for the privacy. Like, oh yeah, you can't track me, and company ads can't track me in my browser. Yay, Apple, they love me. Firefox, they love me. And listen, I think they should do this. Maybe they shouldn't. Actually, I don't know. My point is, there's an unintended consequence. So what this does is, if Apple makes it harder for ad networks to track you across multiple websites, basically, that gives more power to Facebook and Google, because Google doesn't need to track you on other websites nearly as much as some of these other networks do. Google has your search history. They just track you that way. Like that's huge for them. They don't need. So what? Fucking Safari's blocking you from doing this cross-site shit. They don't care. That makes them stronger. It makes other competitive ad networks more. It's harder to compete with Apple and with Google and Facebook. Facebook, the same thing. You're on Facebook.com. They don't necessarily. They do get data on you on other websites, but they get a lot of data from your own Facebook. So it makes it harder to track on other websites. Then that's just going to make Google and Facebook that much stronger. So this is Benedict Evans. God bless him. He's doing the Lord's work with this shit. People are constantly screaming, "Oh, Facebook and Apple and blah blah blah," or Facebook and Google are getting stronger, blah blah blah. Here's another example. He would say, Facebook. People were crying that Facebook didn't open up their fucking their ecosystem and open up their data. Oh, Facebook's harvesting their data. You can't compete with them. And then Facebook said, "Fine, well, let other people get your data with Open Graph." Guess what? You know what that allowed for? Cambridge Analytica. Cambridge Analytica came in there, kind of tricked you into giving away all your data, blah, blah, blah. But we cried when Facebook didn't do this. So then Facebook said, fine, fuck it, we'll let people do this. And now they don't let you do that anymore. So the whole Cambridge Analytica thing, you haven't been able to do it. That type of shit, that API was shut down like in 2015. So this data they used for the election, that was the U.S. election, Cambridge Analytica. Yeah, I know they did some shit in India as well. But yeah, anytime you do something, anytime you regulate something or force or scream at someone, do this. Look at the unintended consequences, people. There's always two sides of the coin. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't have forced Facebook to do that, or I'm not saying we shouldn't. Apple shouldn't make it. Apple and Firefox shouldn't make it harder to track people, or for ad networks to track you. But it's like, dude, look at the unintended consequences. Nothing is in a vacuum. Nothing is in a vacuum. Everything has trade-offs. Let's investigate those trade-offs. Let's weigh the trade-offs. Let's talk about the trade-offs, but let's acknowledge the trade-offs at least. Beast. Okay, so that's the... Oh, shit, that was the last one. Okay, this was epic. How long we got here? I don't know. I'm trying to look at the time here. I don't know, 45 minutes or something. Okay, this was epic. This was fun. I'm going to do this about once a month. I'm going to try. We'll see. I think it'll be fun. You can also follow No Gradient on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and wherever podcasts are available. And I have a monthly newsletter where I just publish everything that's what's new on No Gradient. The easiest way to follow No Gradient, just sign up for the newsletter. I'll email you once a month. Here's all the new shit. Here's the thing I'm thinking about, and I'll link to this so you can listen to this on podcast form, or watch the video if you want. And yeah, so appreciate anyone that's made it this far. I appreciate you. Yeah, thanks for joining. This was a fun little experiment, just a little riff session. I've been wanting to kind of do this for a while. I did it like a few weeks ago, but it didn't work out, and then hopefully we'll get this one out. Also, No Gradient costs about 500 years. 500 years. It costs. Well, we'll be around for 500 years. That'll be epic. It costs about $500 a year to maintain. Consider supporting on Patreon or on nogradient.com. You go to the welcome post and you can do a one-time contribution, monthly contribution. Support the show. Would really appreciate it. It'd be epic to get this on kind of a critical mass of, so I could actually support the publication, support me to be able to spend more time on this. So yeah, epic. Thanks for joining. This was epic. This was Dick Lucas, your host, with Shooting from the Hip #1. Have a blessed day.